It is a period of exploitation. Imperialist ships striking from a western base have won every victory against the woefully inadequate African and Asian territories. In the far reaches of the Congo, Belgian brutalities run rampant. Among the oppressed, seeking an end to the cruelty, is Obi-Khan Kenobi, monk of the Jedi Order, sent to educate the subjugated people and to hopefully spread peace and comfort. Elsewhere, the smuggler Han Salah is attempting to resist the British Empire's rule in Malaysia. Alas, the imperialists were too powerful, too technologically advanced. Nothing could stop them from changing these places irrevocably. Dear Jedi Grandmaster Martinez, for nigh on 1 year have I wandered the jungles of this land known as the Congo. For a time now I have felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. Now I have witnessed it with my own eyes. Truly, what a tragedy it is. The Belgians spare no one in their imperialist greed. All that seems to matter is to strip the land of its resources, primarily to produce rubber. I had heard before setting out that we as Europeans were to enlighten these people and help them along the road to greater civilization, out of loyalty to humanity. Instead, I find that our loyalty is only to our purses. Living among the people, I see open fear and hatred at the mere sight of a white face. I have found, after interacting with them, that the people of the Congo form their own complex civilization. They are no mindless savages, but humans with the same capacity for emotion and intelligence that we possess. Granted, they are ignorant of many matters known to us, which is why my brothers and I were sent. Yet I fear this is only pretense, as education does not seem to be any kind of a priority. However, in the interest of fairness, I must note that the government has improved the situation in the Congo since taking control from King Leopold. As I've been told by monks who have stayed here longer than I, the government took measures to improve the infrastructure and technology, as well as healthcare. Yet I fear they only do these things so that they may gain more efficient workers and therefore more wealth, as none seem to truly care for the Congolese, nor can these actions erase the sins of the past. I have heard tell of it from many broken men and women. Widows, orphans, and survivors have told me about the brutalities that occurred in the past. So much senseless violence, so many dead. If one failed to bring in the requisite amount of rubber, body parts were severed and many were shot to death on the spot. The cries of the wives and children met with even more brutality. Torture, rape, and every imaginable atrocity ran rampant, often seemingly for the mere amusement of the Belgian officers. I feel such sorrow that the horrors orchestrated by King Leopold were not exposed and stopped earlier. After experiencing life in the Congo for myself, I have learned that King Leopold's publicized philanthropy and his supposed devotion to a just cause were nothing more than political lies, designed to keep the rest of the world from interfering. Indeed, it is a tragedy that it took so long for the truth to be exposed and for the Belgian government to seize power from the king. There is an implicit apartheid in effect, restricting the Congolese' rights and lifestyle. I find that the Belgians still treat them as nearly subhuman, which I cannot endorse. It seems to me, based upon what I've heard from many of the older men, that life before the imperialization of Congo was much happier. Though the people were, of course, much more primitive and less technologically advanced, they had enough to make do. More importantly, perhaps, they had their freedom and much fewer deaths. They had their share of conflict as well, but nothing so horrible as we Europeans have done. It is troubling, Grandmaster, that our race has brought on such horrors to this land. For now we may have been blessed with the Force, yet I cannot shake the feeling that we are wrong to lord it over others and use it as a means of exploitation, as has been done in the Congo. The Force calls for me to take action and restore the peace. Tell me, what should I do? With most sincere regards, Jedi Knight Obi-Khan Kenobi.
You're the great Han Solo, aren't you?
Yeah, what's it to you, kid?
I've heard so many stories about you. You're amazing.
Look, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, kid. Being a smuggler is a tough act to follow. Where there's an opportunity to make money, there's always an opportunity to make more. And under British rule, Malaya would grow to become the most profitable source of rubber and tin.
Life isn't so good for the average person who lives over here. As far as
the British have been concerned, they haven't really been interested in the happenings over here, and the only reason they've even increased their influence over here is because of both security and fluctuating production of what they want, which is rubber and tin, and basically the reason I'm here as well. Also is to accumulate as much wealth as I can from these people who live in unfortunate conditions, and charge people who live all around the world in all industrialized nations for extremely exorbitant prices. What the hell does an empire that stretches half a world want in a loosely associated collection of islands? Why would they even go through all the trouble of assigning advisors, governors, all that, just for these islands to counter Dutch trading power? The Dutch have always been the dominant player in Southeast Asia, and the more the British realized that the Dutch could be a potential threat, the more they realized they had to step up their game in Southeast Asia. And so they did this by rapidly imperializing regions of the Malayan Peninsula. Justification to imperialize any territory would be just plain greed, and it would come to benefit them greatly, as I said earlier. It would become the largest exporter of tin and rubber, and so they were really successful in what they set out to achieve. But exactly what did they do to these imperialized territories for as long as they had them, which was over 100 years, give or take? And they were the unfederated Malay states, there were the Strait settlements, and there were the federated Malay states. And each one of them had their own massive political shifts and wars. In response to demand in these tin mines for more laborers, the British brought in Chinese immigrants en masse, and what they didn't know was that these immigrants belonged to secret societies that eventually would amount to vast turmoil and chaos. And so this Chinese community would eventually adapt and become one of the various ethnic communities in present-day Malaysia.
Stop!
And who do you think you are, huh?
I'm sorry, my friend, but I cannot solicit senseless killing. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Droids? That was one kid.
I don't know, it seemed like a cool thing to say. Enough of that, though. I'm interested in hearing your story, smuggler.
So, Mr. Han Solo, is it? I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, monk of the Jedi Order. Tell me, what brought you to this life of smuggling?
I am a soldier of fortune. I go wherever there is money, and the British imperialists have created the perfect opportunity for me to generate as much wealth as I possibly want. I justify my actions by saying that if I don't do this, someone else will, much like these imperial powers in Europe.
A product of the imperialists, eh? I too have seen their handiwork in the Belgian Congo. Such horrors you have never imagined. The atrocities I have seen and that have been relayed to me by my fellows. And all for what though? Corporate greed drives them. I can see no other motivation. They exploit the Congolese for rubber to overtake the other industrialized nations. True, they gain much wealth, but at the cost of several million lives. Such a disturbance in the forest I have never felt.
I like to think that the Malayans are far better off. The British administration allows for the locals to rule themselves. They appoint themselves kings and other heads of state. Although the British, of course, do have much more power than what the heads of state would like, the Malayan people do not receive as harsh a treatment as the Congolese did, as you have just described. How terrible.
Truly, that indeed sounds much better than what happened in the Congo under the rule of King Leopold of Belgium. However, since taking over, the government has made a concerted effort to limit the atrocities. Yet still, I find that this is only for their own greedy motivations, and not any true goodwill for the people. However, their efforts do not seem to be out of any kind of goodwill for the Congolese, but yet born of simple greed, as if conditions improve, they gain more efficient workers, and thus they can gain more money. It is a very tragic condition. Right now, I wish to do as much as I can to bring an end to it. Also, much unlike the situation in the British Malaya, the Belgians exert complete control over the people of the Congo. And
Finally, I guess on a more positive note, I suppose the British are doing some noteworthy things in Malaysia. They are developing the infrastructure to the point where it does mostly affect their means of production. It does improve their means of productions. However, it certainly is a step forward for the entire region as it helps bring Malaysia a step forward in the world and modernize them.
well, it was a very good experience to meet you, Mr. Salah. The world is in a very interesting state of affairs. For now, all we can do is hope that time will lead the world to a better road.
I certainly hope so too.
So, hey, you want to see my lightsaber?
Sure. Hey guys, thank you for watching.
And may the force be with you.